Hey guys, welcome back. We have a midweek energy update to get into. We've got a lot of astrology that is coming at us as we proceed through our week. This week, of course, we're in eclipse week, you guys. Very, very karmic times right now. Nothing that is happening without purpose. Keep that in mind. This is also a week that is like orienting us towards releasing something, letting something go, moving on, culminating, closure. That I think is going to be a major theme of what this full moon eclipse brings us this weekend. The day before that, on Saturday, Uranus is also going to station retrograde in the sky. Big changes pending straight ahead, and as we proceed towards that energy Wednesday and Thursday of this week, I do think the way that planetary alignments are coming through are to an extent foreshadowing that. We've got a Capricorn moon on Wednesday that will oppose Jupiter. This could be some big or excessive or uncontained emotional response to things. There could be control issues going on. And what's tricky about this energy on Wednesday, though, is that the moon will square Mars in the sign of Libra. We also have a Jupiter-Mars square ongoing in the sky this week. We'll talk about it in the report for today. But the moon in Cap squaring Mars and Libra, opposing Jupiter and Cancer. This could just bring up some inner irritation, maybe some conflict going on within relationships, financial situations, domestic situations, and again, like these uncontrolled or overblown emotional responses. On Thursday, the moon leaves Capricorn, enters Aquarius, comes into a conjunction with Pluto, and therefore a trine to Uranus, a sextile to Neptune. We still have this tumultuous, turbulent, emotionally complex energy going on Thursday, but it is kind of now in the context of what we're awakening to, what we're learning, how that's changing us on some deep fundamental levels, and a bit of rebelliousness, non-conforming attitude, not wanting to follow the rules. There is a need to think outside the box this week, you guys, if we are actually going to solve problems, especially in interpersonal dynamics. And we've got a lot going on. I've got a lot to talk about and tell you guys about in terms of the way that energy is happening and playing out there for us as we move through the midpoint of our week this week. So let's do it. Let's get into the report. Let's take a good look at our energy forecast and what it might mean for us as we head towards this full moon lunar eclipse this weekend. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this report, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field for more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We're gonna do that at the end. We have a very active astrology week underway, as I mentioned in my intro, and as we do hit the energy of the midpoint of our week this week, we are very much pulling into this full moon in Pisces lunar eclipse energy that is coming in on the 7th. This is also, I want to say, a very, very Uranian week this week. We started off the week with Mercury entering the sign of Virgo on Tuesday, immediately squaring Uranus in the sign of Gemini, Mercury's other sign. And then on Saturday the 6th, just before we have this full moon come in, we also have Uranus stationing retrograde. Whenever a planet stations in its motion in the sky, it amplifies the energy of that planet. So all of that in consideration, very Uranian oriented week. Of course, right now we also have Uranus and Pluto in a trine in the sky in air signs. Pluto in the beginning of Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, trining Uranus in the beginning of Gemini, and Pluto, it rules power in all of its forms. And it is definitely, especially in the trine aspect, like powering up. It's like a power up for the Uranian influence that is already present right now. So we are just in a very Uranian Aquarian energy generally right now, specifically because of the nature of the relationship in transit between these two particular outer planets at the moment, but this week specifically as well, with Mercury squaring Uranus to get the week started in both of Mercury's signs, Virgo and Gemini. and Uranus stationing on Saturday, the day before we have this full moon lunar eclipse coming in, which means that that is also going to be impacted by the amplification of the Uranian energy as a result of Uranus's station. This is clearly a powerful time of Uranian energy, and this week and weekend specifically, Uranus is the Great Awakener. Uranus rules sudden, unexpected changes. Uranus is like the lightning card in the tarot deck, and it also, though, rules silver linings, blessings in disguise. Oftentimes, Uranus is the experience that we would never, ever, ever have chosen for ourselves, nor would we necessarily choose to go through it again. However, we're grateful for the experience. We'd never change it. We'd never take it away. We'd never go back because of what it ultimately led to in terms of, you know, something that we cherish and we would never want to give up in our lives as a result. So that oftentimes is what we're dealing with when we have a strong Uranian influence. It also is said to make the changes for us that we haven't been able to make for ourselves. And I personally always perceive Uranus as being an energy that facilitates some higher purpose or future path to be able to come into the reality, to be able to come to pass. And it does that again by way of oftentimes taking us off the or I guess I could say altering our course in such a way to like get us back on track to where our true path is supposed to be. So Uranus leads us to like our true north, our like true path of karmic evolution in like any given life or experience, but it just often can do so in a way that is unsettling, unpredictable, unexpected, uncomfortable, super freaking scary. But again, ultimately it's like when everything lands and the dust settles, like we miraculously are on our feet somehow and in a better place. So that being said, there could be themes or qualities associated with what I just described that are characteristics of your week or your weekend upcoming somehow. Or things could just be weird, like things could just be unusual. Uranus is also an energy that just like doesn't allow things to proceed in the normal manner according to the plan. That's why whenever like the sort of catchphrase relating to Uranian energy is expect the unexpected, because it just has a tendency of like altering the way that things play out in a way that is different than originally anticipated. And it can be, you know, shocking, it can be a surprise, it can just like come out of absolute nowhere. So I wouldn't necessarily set your expectation bar, therefore, super, super high for the week or the weekend. We definitely, and again, this is a mutable full moon lunar eclipse that we're moving into. It is all about what we are being done with. And of course, I'm going to talk more and more about it as we move through the week. That's going to be the entire topic of my Friday video, is going to be this full moon lunar eclipse that we're coming up. So I don't want to get, or that we have coming up. So I don't want to get too in depth into it right now, but it is all about being at the end of something, perhaps some type of spiritual awakening or ultimate point of surrender that actually kind of changes everything for us. This could be a very, very life-changing period of time that we're moving towards, especially with the added Uranian influence that's going on right now as well. There could be some true spiritual awakenings that come about in this energy that cause us to quite drastically or dramatically shift our, particularly like maybe like our values or like the rules that we're living by, or how we are like doing and operating our day-to-day lives in reality for one reason or another. And again, much more to come on that. But as we do proceed through the midpoint of our week this week, I do think that there could be kind of like a supersized emotional energy that is spilling over a bit and maybe translating into whatever it is that we're going to be releasing, moving on from letting go as the energy comes in from the weekend. We do have some aspects aspects going on that I feel like are foreshadowing this eclipse energy. The moon is making aspects with planets that are also involved in what's going to be happening with this full moon coming up. Specifically, we've got a strong Jupiterian influence that is going to be at play alongside our full moon this weekend. Jupiter is going to be in a tight trine to the north node of the moon, sextile to the south node of the moon. The nodes of the moon are what bring us our eclipse seasons each spring and fall. We've got 2 eclipse seasons a year. They always happen when we have full moons and new moons that are falling in conjunction to whatever sign the nodes of the moon are transiting through. Right now, we have the nodes of the moon transiting through Pisces and Virgo from the Western tropical zodiac perspective. So therefore, Pisces season and Virgo season are our eclipse seasons for as long as the nodes continue to transit through these signs. These are mutable signs. This is all about going with the flow. This is about adapting. This is about transitions. And we also, to start our week, experienced the Mercury Uranus square in mutable signs, Gemini and Virgo. Being as adaptable as you can this week, you guys. Again, not like setting the expectations to a standard that you're gonna be just like all bent out of shape if things don't go according to plan. Going with the flow with a literal full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces that is trining Jupiter in Cancer. This is going to be our best like mental, emotional, psychological strategy to get through the week with the weekend with the best internal personal results, I think. Now, Wednesday and Thursday specifically, as we move into this full moon, and this is just kind of going to carry over, we are heading towards, of course, our energetic climax of the month. Always happens when we've got that full moon going on out there. And with the Jupiterian trine right now, Jupiter being so influential, and by Jupiterian trine, I mean Jupiter is in an exact trine to the north node of the moon this week. That is where the moon is going to be for our full moon that happens on Sunday. So the moon and Jupiter will be in trine. The moon is also currently ruling the position of Jupiter because Jupiter is transiting the sign of Cancer right now. That means that whatever is going on with the moon while Jupiter is transiting Cancer is supersizing, amplifying, exacerbating, making bigger the emotional response to things. What is happening on an emotional level is going to be more strongly felt when we've got Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, and especially in that free flow of energy, that facilitation, that trine that is going to be coming through with this full moon. And it is a full moon anyways, and it's in the sign of Pisces, which is about emotional release. So just know there is a very sensitive, very powerful, overblown perhaps, supersized perhaps, maybe a bit like uncontrollable or out of control emotional energy all week. And again, I have stated that I feel like Wednesday and Thursday are foreshadowing to an extent the energy of the full moon coming in. And that is because Jupiter on Wednesday is being opposed by the moon in Capricorn. Right now, another thing that is of interest to me that we've got going on the sidelines of this lunar eclipse full moon that's playing out is the fact that Saturn just retrograded back to 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces. That is the very last degree of the zodiac. Saturn is about control and limitations, its structures, its foundations, its authority. It's also, Saturn is the lord of karma. Saturn is the lord of time. This is a highly karmic influence at the very, very last degree of the zodiac. I'm telling you, some type of structure, rule, authority, some way that we have like regulated our feelings, or some foundation or something that has been foundational or structural in the context of our lives somehow is breaking down, is coming to an end. Like, this is the end of an era, of a way of being, of a way of thinking, of a way of doing, of a way of like systematizing or ordering things or organizing things somehow. And it's, of course, it's going to be impacting all of us differently depending on what area of our lives this energy is taking place in the context of like your own personal natal chart. But with Saturn, I'm telling you guys, with Saturn at that very last degree, like this is the end of something. This is the absolute final chapter. Like there's no going back after this. Like it may have seemed as though this thing was ending actually like this past spring, and then we maybe, I don't know, like tiptoed back somehow or took a couple steps backwards, but this is the final point of closure that we've got coming up here. And again, like he's in the sign of Pisces, last sign of the zodiac, same sign where this very karmic release oriented eclipse is taking place, and with the Jupiter energy in that trine, that is supersizing the efforts of this whole situation happening in the sign of Pisces, this very, very watery, emotional energy, Saturn retrograde. Like there's no way to control it. Like there's no way to hold it back. Like the outpouring of emotion or feeling or catharsis or even like actual literal water, whatever it is like the walls are not containing it. Nothing's containing it. This is a spillover. And in the energy of Wednesday, this is again relevant because the moon in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn at that 29th degree retrograde of the sign of Pisces, you see the connection there, opposes Jupiter in Cancer and also sextiles the moon in the sign of Pisces. So the excessive, maybe like overblown outpouring or emotional response to things could definitely be being triggered in the energy of Wednesday as well. It could be uncontrollable, there could be things feeling a bit out of control, or there could be issues coming up in relation to control, discipline, order, structure, authority somehow. Now, what is kind of the complication also that is coming through in the energy of Wednesday is the fact that we have Mars right now in the sign of Libra. Now, we have another energy that we've got playing out this week is a square that is taking place between Mars in the sign of Libra and Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. Now, in terms of square aspects happening between important planets, and especially square aspects involving Mars, I do find that the Jupiter square actually tends to give pretty decent results, but it is really important the way that we go about achieving those results. When we're dealing with a square between Jupiter and Mars, the way that we are doing things, the way that we are using our energy matters. And if we're not doing things the right way, sometimes this can work against us. But as long as we are, doing things the right way and in kind of like an upright and honest manner, it can be successful and we can get a good outcome from our input. However, what is just a little bit tricky about the day on Wednesday is the fact that we do have the moon right there in the square to Mars as well. This can have a tendency of bringing up a sense of internal irritation. While the Mars-Jupiter square is likely actually energizing things and maybe helping people to feel a bit inspired to have confidence in themselves or believe they can do it or act on a vision, which Mars and Jupiter in combination generally has a tendency of doing, that moon coming through right there, which is really now forming a T-square because we've got both Jupiter and the moon now squaring Mars and moon and Jupiter in the opposition. This could be definitely adding a bit of a conflict-oriented nature, maybe in the context of some of these control issues or of some of these things that may be feeling a bit out of control, causing problems, causing issues. People maybe who are feeling a bit out of control or like they're losing control or they've lost control of something somehow, perhaps Mars and square, right? Reacting violently or aggressively or with some type of excess of anger with the Jupiterian energy, we could be seeing that. This could also represent some type of lack of balance or fairness or reciprocity that is causing issues. Maybe it could have to do with some type of excessive criticism or judgment or even like selfishness or materialism that is causing people to do or abandon or neglect something somehow, their job, duty, responsibilities, maybe to like caretaking or family with the Jupiter Cancer energy. So conflict in the workplace, contention with or among social groups, partnership dynamics, financial situations, domestic disputes. all of those things could be surfacing, manifesting issues that we're dealing with that could cause some type of, again, like outpouring of emotional energy somehow on Wednesday. A positive expression of this energy, though, it could be very strategic or motivated teamwork that is focused on achieving some type of goal, like pouring energy into figuring out how to overcome some type of challenge to achieve that success that we're kind of oriented towards. As I was mentioning earlier, the proper implementation and use of energy right now, energy used wisely, can definitely generate gains here, especially with Mars and Libra in the context of some group effort or collaboration, or with the moon in Capricorn overcoming some type of obstacle to success. We could gain some wisdom or be able also to like perceive the bigger picture in a way that helps us to overcome some of these issues also when we've got an energetic setup like this. So it's not, you know, all negative. There's always a dualistic nature to the way that octaves of energy can manifest themselves. You can usually go like one extreme or another, or of course be somewhere in between. But often when we do have a moon Mars square going on, that can bring in like this internal conflict or irritation or frustration that may perhaps be a bit expanded by the presence of Jupiter right there as well. Jupiter is either energizing things in a way that gives us the confidence to overcome and persevere through things that normally would have been like stacked against us, or it is likely to like exacerbate internalized conflict and tension that have been going on, maybe related to, again, like things to do with control or a lack of fairness or reciprocity, or things going on within the home and family in a way that could create, again, these like overblown emotional responses. So I feel like those are kind of the two ways that this energy is likely to go. Frustration, irritation, anger, depression, feeling isolated, alone, out of control, unable to relate or connect with others, interpersonal conflict, lack of inner peace or security. These are the vibes on one hand of things, and then also inspired motivation to succeed at something despite or against the odds. Belief in our ability to persevere and overcome and be successful. Also very valid, but it just needs to be done the right way when we have a Mars-Jupiter square. This is also a very spiritual week. Jupiter in Cancer trining the North Node in Pisces. This is like an activation portal or point or frequency for spiritual growth, wisdom that we've gained that like opens our eyes or broadens our perspective in such a way that helps us to release something, surrender something, change something about the way that we are thinking, and maybe embrace a deeper spiritual truth or higher spiritual calling or knowing. It is a time of enhanced spiritual connection, spiritual presence, divine knowing, divine inspiration, ultimately spiritual growth. The North Node is about growth. Jupiter is about growth. The North Node is in the sign of Pisces. That is the sign having to do with our spiritual connection. Jupiter is also about trust, faith, and belief. So when you put those two things together, and also in the trine aspect, and also consider Jupiter's placement in the sign of Cancer ruled by the moon, this is an emotional expansion into a like higher spiritual truth. I do recommend, therefore, cultivating your spiritual connection this week, believing in and utilizing also the power of prayer, faith, trust in the divine. Spiritual gifts, spiritual blessings, and miracles are indicated in the midst of this period of release, letting go, and perhaps a bit of, or maybe a great level of uncertainty that we may be heading towards, or just like navigating throughout the course of this week generally. Wednesday, we do still have Mercury in a square to Uranus as well. Mercury is moving fast through the sign of Virgo. By the time that we actually get to Thursday, Mercury will already be at 5 degrees of the sign of Virgo. He just entered Virgo on Tuesday. So Mercury is like burning rubber through the sign of Virgo right now. And if you guys watched my Monday video, I was saying that to me is sort of indicating that a lot of things are going to be just like happening very quickly over the course of this next couple of weeks. But He is still within range of that square to Uranus on Wednesday. So again, another indication, as I've said at the beginning of the week and also coming in at the end of the week, things just may not go as planned. People could be shocking you with their information or their data, their details, or generally just the words that are coming out of their mouth. You may also learn something quite unexpected, or there could be also just like weird miscommunications or like disagreements or arguments that are going on between people. Anxiety, nervous tension, nervous energy, like stress could also be very characteristic of the way that our like mental energy, our mind is operating, or just like how we're kind of feeling this week. People thinking and saying strange things, not following the rules. In fact, again, like the Wednesday and Thursday, we do have a bit of rule breaking energy that I would say is standing out to me. And people are probably not willing to stand in line, not willing to follow directions, this urge to think outside the box, to do things different, to change the pattern, change the flow, changing the rules for the day, or, you know, the week maybe therefore could actually work in your benefit, especially if you're dealing with children or a learning, teaching, communicating environment. Changing your delivery, changing the way that you're communicating, changing the way that you're presenting, there could definitely be some type of benefit in there. Mercury also rules children and like education and stuff like that. So this whole week, if you're involved in things like that, you may just want to like alter your game plan a little bit, make things a little bit more exciting and like unstructured outside the box, because if you don't, you're probably just going to be fighting against the natural like tendency towards people acting and like desiring that type of thing anyways. Let's talk more about Thursday now. On Thursday, the energy shifts as the moon leaves Capricorn, enters the sign of Aquarius, you know, breaks that T-square with Jupiter and Mars in cardinal signs that we had going on. However, the moon does then come into a conjunction with Pluto and a trine to Uranus and Gemini and a sextile to Neptune and Aries and also Saturn. But remember, Saturn has retrograded out of Aries now with the last degree of Pisces. So he's still in that trine too, but he's not anymore. He's in a different sign now. He's no longer in the sign of Aries, which is the sign that does sextile Aquarius. So this is another one of those days where we are perhaps primed for some type of awakening, revelation, secrets revealed, something being illuminated or exposed or unearthed somehow, deep emotional transformation that both awakens us to something and breaks down some maybe like previously held fantasy or illusion or self-concept somehow. The moon in Aquarius, as it hits this point every month, makes that conjunction to Pluto and trine to Uranus, is plugging us into that great awakening energy, which I think I mentioned this in my intro. Uranus and Gemini trine Pluto and Aquarius to me is the energetic embodiment of what we would refer to as the Great Awakening. As this energy is incrementally activated by the moon and other planets in transit now and moving forward, we're going to experience these powerful awakenings and transformations in the way that we are feeling and thinking about things that really alters and shifts the entire paradigm. Now, Uranus, as I've told you guys, is preparing to go retrograde and will retrograde out of Gemini. And so there will be a bit of a break in this energy. We're really kind of in like the epilogue to that upcoming chapter. However, right now it is still very active, and the moon there is plugging us, like I said, plugging us into that. There could be something profound or enlightening, some inner knowing, or just like emotionally illuminating or transformative experience that comes through, especially again like on that deeper emotional or even like subconscious level on Thursday. But it's Aquarius, you guys, and we've got Pluto trine Uranus. Like that is a very rebellion, revolution, non-compliance, like personal power oriented energy, and there is a powerful emotional urge to have freedom or to change something or to transform something or to even escape from something, especially if it's like overly oppressive with this particular energetic dynamic at play. It's another day where trying to control others or trying to get them to like bend to your will or do what you say or follow your orders, like it's just probably not gonna go well. It's probably going to do more to like work against your personal situation than it is to like get any type of result from, you know, whatever your intention was with like trying to make people do what you want. So again, you know, maybe like relinquishing a little bit of control, being a bit outside the box. This is also going to be a good strategy on Thursday. Also on Thursday, this is when the square between Jupiter and Mars that I was referencing earlier does come exact. Mars moves to 18 degrees of the sign of Libra, exactly squaring Jupiter at 18 degrees of the sign of Cancer right now. Relationships, financial, domestic situations, again, or maybe a motivation to grow and expand that is like unwilling to be tamed or unwilling to settle for less, kind of falling in line with that lunar energy going on Thursday as well. That may be kind of like the dualistic nature of the way that energy is hitting us on Thursday. Now, interestingly, Mars is at 19 degrees of Libra via the Sabian symbol placement for this square. Remember, you guys, when we read the Sabian symbols, we always round up a degree. We read the energetic wave that's coming in, not the wave that has already manifested and is waning out. So if we have a Mars-Jupiter square activating at 18 degrees of their signs, we're reading the 19th Sabian symbol for their symbolic degree placements. 19 degrees of Libra, that Sabian symbol is a gang of robbers in hiding. 19 degrees of Cancer, where Jupiter is, that is a priest performing a marriage ceremony. We also have the sun at 13 degrees of Virgo on Thursday when that activation hits. That Sabian symbol is a powerful statesman, overcomes a state of political hysteria, and the Earth on Thursday is at 13 Pisces, an ancient sword used in many battles that now rests in a museum. That symbol right there, the ancient sword used in many battles now rests in a museum, very much aligned with the energy of this upcoming full moon in Virgo. The sword used in many battles now rests in a museum, like South Node in Virgo. Virgo for short is the museum where the sword is resting. The ancient sword, you know, used in many battles, like it's come to the end. It's a relic of the past. We're letting it go. At one point in time, it was a very useful weapon and tool, but it has like run its course of authority and is now resting in a museum. So that again is kind of like foreshadowing the nature of this lunar eclipse that is coming in. But all of those, you know, those three symbols may be particularly relevant in the energy of Thursday or moving into the weekend. The moon, as I've told you guys, is ruling the position of Jupiter right now, because Jupiter is in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, and with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius on Thursday, the moon being with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius on Thursday, this again could be revealing truths that have been long hidden. Maybe Jupiter and Cancer within families or squaring Mars, a relationship or financial dynamics that are at the root of some maybe long-standing generational conflict or pattern or problem that this energy is seeking to clear up, to resolve somehow. But with also the Jupiter North Node trine happening, these are fated revelations. These are fated occurrences, right? Again, nothing that is happening right now is without purpose, and it's all actually quite like blessed on one level, but it is also like of a nature where we are likely not to perceive it that way in the moment because of the emotions that are initially coming along with it. So Thursday could be an emotionally or relationally, of course, tumultuous day with a Moon Pluto conjunction going on, or we could be feeling extra motivated by maybe a sense of courage or faith or confidence to stand up for ourselves, maybe against something that has been overly domineering or overpowering or controlling or oppressive somehow, rebelling against things that have been overly limiting or that have suppressed or repressed. This is also a vibe when we've got this type of setup. People maybe consciously or unconsciously embodying a sense of internal personal power when faced with interpersonal or domestic conflict on Thursday as well, of course, because of the Jupiter influence in the sign of Cancer with the moon and square to Mars. Like, that's why, you know, the Jupiter-Mars square, like, yes, that can be an energy that can make people take like dumb risks and just like fly forward with things and like be so consumed by the big picture and this like grandiose vision and their confidence that they can do it that they like totally overlook, you know, the details and the steps that are necessary to actually like make that thing successful. However, as I continue to say, like, if we take the time to figure out the proper process and act strategically and consider every angle and have foresight, this energy also gives us a tremendous amount of energy and an ability to focus our energy on what needs to be done to get the job done to be successful or to get the win. We really can do big things if we're giving it our all and doing things in an honest, upright, accountable manner. If we are acting with wisdom and having integrity in what we do, you're probably going to get a good outcome. Or this could just be making tempers flare and like exacerbating conflicts and stuff like that as people seek to balance things out, as people seek to like be self-empowered and make changes and step into a more like emotionally empowered sense of authenticity and being at a point finally maybe of release, again, letting things go, surrendering some old past dimension of ourselves, of our lives, or experiences as we feel this spiritual calling to like step into something new, step into something more, become something more, align with a higher potential that we know is within us, but maybe we have been suppressing or repressing for some reason. So, make the changes, you guys, that you feel inspired to make this week. If you are motivated to take a risk in this Mars-Jupiter square energy or assert yourself or act on something, just make sure that you have considered every angle, that you are acting from the highest place of wisdom that you have within your capacity. Underhanded, deceitful, maligned intentions and efforts are not probably going to be successful or go well. With Mars squaring Jupiter, we've got to do things in the right ways for the right reasons, and as long as we choose the right things and, you know, act on it, you will be blessed. This will bring, you know, success and good fortune. So make wise and compassionate decisions and judgments, and things are probably going to work out all right. And that's where we're gonna leave off in our video for today. We will pick back up on Friday, and as I have referenced a whole bunch of times, the topic of our report is of course going to be a more in-depth analysis of our full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. Lastly, one final note, numerology. When I was preparing my notes for today, I noticed that the Sabian symbol degree 19 of varying signs was repeated 5 times in our energy in terms of planetary placements on Thursday, and it was like that on Friday as well. We have Jupiter, Mars, the nodes of the moon, and the black moon all at 19 degrees of the symbolic placement of whatever sign they're transiting through. Jupiter in Cancer, Mars in Libra, the nodes in Pisces and Virgo, and the black moon in Scorpio. Now, I'm looking at 19. That's a 10 when we're talking about numerology. Again, like the completion of something, coming full circle. 5 is a number representing dynamic change, that Uranian influence, change through what's been completed and what we're done with. And I'm just pointing that out to you guys because if you guys watch my channel, you know I always say that when I encounter repetitions in terms of just the way that these energy patterns are coming through, especially when they're coming through in different modalities, it often is one of the things that is an indicator for me for, you know, what's going to be going on, what we need to be aware of, what has a strong potential of manifesting and taking place. And so with the numerology coming through like that again as well on Thursday, as we are heading into this full moon energy, 5 10s, okay, dynamic change through the like coming full circle or the completion of something. Like we're going up the next rung on the spiral as this full moon comes in. So that's what I have to say today, you guys, about our astrology. Now, we do have a tarot reading to get into, which interestingly enough is very, to me, aligned with what our astrology is saying. Now, I've got like 2 different 3-card sets that came up for interpretation for us today, and both of them are, to me, expressing kind of like a different dimension of the way that the energy that we're moving through this week and what is coming up with the full moon lunar eclipse energy could be indicating or bringing out as well. Now, on one hand, we're talking about like money, finances, valuables, possessions, like the ideals of greatness, like what we've been holding on to very tightly, like what we have like prioritized and derived like a sense of internal value or satisfaction from, like the things that have given us security that we've been holding on to. And again, like our almost like vision of greatness, perhaps somehow, like what we've been striving for, goals. I don't know. It seems like there could be some type of reflection, internal reflection, moment of like withdrawal or deep reconsideration maybe of what it is that we truly want, of what the goal actually is, of what the ideal actually is. We have the Hermit card coming through in between the 4 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles, both reversed. This is like the goal or the vision that of success or of greatness that I had been holding on to for so long. Like I'm coming to realize, or I'm coming to find out, isn't what I thought it was, or doesn't represent the true value that or like no longer represents the concept of true value to me for one reason or another. We're talking about the 10 of Pentacles. That is like the prize. That is the goal. Okay. That is, you know, what we are working towards, what we are building, and, you know, the ultimate like grand vision of, you know, hopes, dreams manifest in tangible material reality. With it in reverse, it's like, maybe not. Like maybe that's not the goal. Like maybe that's not what we're striving for. Like maybe that is not what is going to represent material success and satisfaction to me anymore. And the other reason why I'm saying that is because we also have the 4 of Pentacles, same orientation, same pentacle energy, same like the earthly things that I value and that I build, but it's also in reverse. So it's like perhaps coming to a point of letting go of that image or ideal of greatness, which is also interesting because Saturn energy, Earth energy, Saturn right now at 29 degrees of the sign of Pisces, that is, obviously it's the last degree of the zodiac and it has to do with what we're culminating and finishing, but the Sabian symbol of that degree is a majestic rock formation idealized by a boy takes it as his ideal, or no, a majestic rock formation resembling a face is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness, and as he grows up begins to look like it. It's Saturn retrograde there. It's all about the breakdown of the previous ideals of greatness, the previous goals, the previous standards, like where the bar was. So I don't know, there could be a collective energy going on this week. Hermit is where we are withdrawing to seek illumination in the darkness. Like there could be something here about really reconsidering what we're striving for, what we want to achieve, and coming to a point of surrender or release or letting go of maybe some old value system or like projection of what it is that we truly wanted. So that's what we've got on one hand. Now on the other hand, we have kind of like a similar dynamic going on, except this is more in the context of relationship dynamics, who we're working with, and what we are in the process of building. We have the Two of Pentacles coming through right here, and it's interesting because we've got all of this in both readings. We've got Pentacle energy, we've got the Two of Pentacles as the kind of like overlay in this reading between the Devil in reverse, Saturn energy, and also the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Two of Pentacles is like the decisions that we're making, like an uneven balance of things, like what's going back and forth, what we're going back and forth between, like trying to assess the value or the significance of something, like a bit maybe like unsure what to choose. And the Three of Pentacles in reverse, this is like, I mean, the Three of Pentacles is how we're collaborating and working with others to bring some blueprint into fruition. Teamwork for the purpose of building something. The Devil, of course, is the toxic attachments that we maintain and where we surrender our own power or dimensions of ourselves in order to receive something that gives the illusion of something that we want but isn't actually necessarily good for us. And this to me could be giving an indication of like going back and forth maybe between whether some particular relationship dynamic is actually working in our benefit, is actually good for us, if we're actually getting to the goal or building what we want, or if it is actually translating into the promise or what we thought it was, or if it's really just some type of toxic attachment that we have come to the point of being or of needing to release and let go. And then like, you know, when we consider the other side of this tarot reading as well, that's talking about maybe like reconsidering what we value and what we want to build and what we want to create. This side is almost like staying in this relationship or keeping myself attached to this particular dynamic. Like, is it going to get me that outcome? Am I going to be able to change my values or change the direction of what I want to build or create if I'm still in this situation? Or is it just like a drain on my energy or, you know, my time or my resources, and I'm never going to get to where I want to be, never going to get to the goal, or I can't do what I authentically want to, like I'm bound to some past image or past goal that is like no longer resonates with me, but like I can't get out of that now as long as I stay in this connection or attachment. So I don't know, you guys, that could be a thing, that could be a theme that people are dealing with. The inner battle of whether to stay in a situation that we may be gaining an awareness is just actually not good for us, or to detach from and let go of what it always was or what we've been building maybe and hanging on to for a long period of time, because we're realizing it's not actually the goal anymore, it's not actually the vision, it's not actually what we want, it's not actually what we value. And you know, we've got to make some major changes or sever some ties in order to like get back on track with like our own authentic nature and where we feel ourselves evolving at this point in time. So you let me know, you guys, you let me know if that's something you got going on, because it seems like a pretty powerful set of circumstances coming through in that tarot reading. Now I'm going to get us a synchronicity card, you guys. I'm asking God, Spirit, Universe for one final piece of guidance or advice. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind as we move throughout our week? It says rest, relax, and believe. And you know what? With this Pisces energy and the Cancer trine, that's another thing. Taking it a bit easy. Energy is probably, I mean, we do have Mars and Jupiter in square. That does energize things, but especially as we move into the weekend and that Pisces moon energy does come in, this could be a bit draining. This could be kind of just like a slower paced, more low key type of vibe, and resting, relaxing, dreaming, you know, taking a bath, meditating, even like dream work and stuff like that can be quite beneficial and therapeutic in energy like this. So our guidance midpoint this week is rest, relax, and believe. Super, super aligned with the concept of Jupiter and Cancer trining the North Node in Pisces. That is going to be a full moon this weekend. He feedeth among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Song of Solomon 2:16 through 17. Take refuge among the lilies of God and heaven, and dwell upon the concepts of joy, harmony, peace, beauty, and divine law and order. All your plans, journeys, and undertakings will prosper. Continue in this abiding trust and faith in God until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. And like I said in my last video, and I touched on in this video as well, the power of prayer right now, you guys, with that Jupiterian influence in the sign of Cancer, in the trine to the North Node, and in the trine to the moon this weekend, this spiritual emphasis and spiritual influence and our ability to achieve a higher level of spiritual growth through our faith, through our trust, through our ability to surrender the burden to the divine right now, and rest assured in the trust and faith that God, Great Spirit, Universe, the divine, however you connect to a higher power, is at the wheel right now, and that we really truly don't, I mean, nothing about our chart right now says, you know what, human, you're in control. The control that we do have, I actually think, is our ability to alter and shift our mind, surrender to the divine, act our faith, and project our vision of what we, you know, the direction that we wish to move in alignment with our emotional energy and the imagination that it's possible, like, into the future. We do not have the power to physically, tangibly control the outcomes of things, but we do have the power to emotionally align with what we want to create in ways that can actually very tangibly become manifest if, again, like, we're using our energy and our mind and our emotions in the right way as we move through this period of time. So know, you guys, that all your plans, journeys, and undertakings will prosper. Continue in this abiding trust and faith in God until the day breaks and the shadows flee away. That's what I have to say today, you guys. Message from the stars, message from the cards. I hope you liked the video. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also be interested in this type of astrology content. Leave me comments. Let me know. Let me know what's going on with you guys out there. If you are having experiences that reflect the astrology, what I'm talking about in these videos, drop me a comment. Let me know. Tell me all about it. That's very valuable information to me. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, as I always say, I have a Facebook group linked in my description box below where I am posting those images at the moment. So if you want to see the full board, click that link and it will take you to that Facebook group, and that is where today, or, you know, within the next day or so, I will have that image of that board posted. And come back with me on Friday, you guys. We've got obviously a lot more astrology to get into, and I'm going to be back to talk so much more all about it. So you don't want to miss it. And I will see you next time, you guys. Have a really beautiful midpoint of your week. And until then, bye.